guys? This is Andre the Fury Feely. You're listening to Verbal Scrap.
This is Rick Rieger, and you're listening to the Verbal Scrap Podcast.
This is Keto Andrews, and you're listening to the Verbal Scrap Podcast. This is Nan Fan, and you're listening to the Verbal Scrap Podcast.
I'm a fighter. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to fight.
Hey, this is Dave Hirschbein, MMA Gold, and you're listening to the Verbal Scrap.
I've worked so hard to do what I got to do in here. I took so much blood for this sport. I took so much pain, everything for the sport.
Hey, y'all, this is Zeke Johnston. You're listening to SRMMA.com Verbal Scrap. Stay tuned. They got some good stuff coming up.
Yes, you are. You were listening to episode 29 of the Verbal Scrap Podcast. This is your host, Johnny Wah, and I am joined in studio with one of the band members of Legion's Requiem, Stephen Ward. How you doing today, Stephen?
Good.
He is good, folks. You heard it here. You're on the episode of the Verbal Scrap Podcast. You are hearing it live on SRMMA.com. We have so much fight news for you. UFC Macau. If you haven't seen the highlights of Rich Franklin and Kung Lee, I showed my man Steven right here the knockout, and oh man, it was gruesome. Wasn't it gruesome?
It was amazing.
It was amazing, and we have the highlights for you. We got so much Bellator news as well. Bellator 79 and 80 news. Heavyweight tournament is finalized. We got local talent Josh APPELT. We interviewed him. His Bellator 79 victory. We also got Tachi Palace 15 preview happening this Thursday. I'm going to be down there in Lemoore, California at Tachi Palace Casino. The main event of the evening, Angel Deonda taking on Anthony A-Train Ruiz for the light heavyweight title of Tachi Palace 15. If you go to SRMMA.com right now, you can see all kinds of news about this fight. We're doing a lot of Tachi stuff. We got Freddie Big, the Who Is series, a new series with SRMMA where we kind of dissect the fighters, telling you a little bit more about one of their fights coming up and more about them as a person. You can check that out on SRMMA.com right now. But first, let's get into some of that UFC Macau news. Like I told you, that knockout, it was disgusting. But before we tell you exactly how disgusting it was, I kind of want to give you a little background. UFC was in Macau in China. Did you ever think that the UFC would be in China, Stephen?
Possible.
Was that a thought in your mind when you ever thought UFC?
Yeah.
You thought China?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, Chinese. They got all kinds of good stuff, including cage fighting.
I think a lot of martial arts, superstars. I think Bruce Lee was from China.
Bruce Lee was not from. There is no way that Bruce Lee was from China.
What?
Well, UFC Macau had Rich Franklin taking on Kung Lee. Rich Franklin spoke about the matchup beforehand, so let's hear a little bit about what he had to say.
Replenishing himself. You can wipe yourself on my blazer, sir. There you go. Rich, I'll let you finish what you got in your mouth. I'll keep talking while you finish it. Nearly there. I'd like to call you the road warrior, not the ace, because you seem to be the ultimate diplomat for the UFC. Isn't this the 7th, 8th, 9th country you've fought in?
I think this is the 8th country I fought in, but the 7th that I've done with the UFC. And it's just, we're here in China, and we're expanding the market to a new group of people. I think I do a good job of kind of explaining this stuff to people and doing that. So the UFC uses me in that kind of role.
But you like going on the road to fight? I mean, how did you acclimatize yourself for another country, another time zone?
There are pros and cons to being on the road. It takes me out. Traveling takes you out of your environment, so I don't have the daily, do I need to cut the grass today kind of things to worry about. But then in the end, that can kind of hinder you as well, because if you're not worrying about that stuff in between training, then you train and you come and you sit at home basically and think about training the whole time. So as long as I can acclimate to the time zone, not worry about my nutrition and things like that, then I really don't mind fighting on the road. We're at the Venetian here in China, and nutrition hasn't been a problem. The weight cut went really well. That was important for me because this is the first time I'm back down to true 185 in quite some time. So with all that being said, it's not that big of a deal. Fortunately, I had a good hookup in Singapore. Neil Rowe and I, my coach, we went down to Singapore, finished the last 2 weeks of camp there. My time zone is on. I'm not having that jet lag anymore and all that kind of stuff, so I'm ready to go.
Well, the jet lag might have affected him because it seemed like Kung Lee spoke afterwards at the post-fight conference. He said he looked like he was throwing kind of a lazy jab, lazy kicks, and that's what he ended up catching him with. He ended up catching him with a one-punch knockout, overhand right, Kung Lee of Rich Franklin. Now, I'll ask you, Stephen, when I showed you the GIF, what were your first thoughts?
How did his body defy physics? He got punched in one direction and fell in a completely opposite direction.
You are totally correct. He got knocked out. Rich Franklin got knocked out, and he was facing Kung Lee, got knocked out. His body turned and then faced the other way and fell backwards. For you guys that didn't get a chance to check it out on TV, the UFC on Fuel, John and Nick, they reviewed it. So let's take a listen.
So how is that for putting a capstone on the UFC's first trip to Macau? Candidly, Kung Lee was not expected by many people to do what he did here tonight. He was a huge underdog. Not only does he get the cold, clean knockout, he gets it in the first round against a former UFC champion.
Well, he was the underdog heading into this fight, but if there was a way he was going to get it done, it was going to be early. Kung Lee definitely had the speed advantage, and Rich, kind of started the fight with his hands a little low, and it was almost a bad thing because he was in control, especially with his striking. And as soon as he retracted that leg, his arms were low, and Kung Lee was right there to capitalize, landed that right hook, flush, right on the button, and that was it.
Now, I know you've tasted both victory and defeat in your mixed martial arts career. For Rich Franklin, a guy who puts so much into the preparation and takes this so seriously, what's his mindset right now?
Well, right, you have the biggest highs and the biggest lows in this sport. When you win, you feel amazing. When you lose, you really feel terrible. And now, getting caught with that shot and that knockout, it's going to be tough to come back from something like that. But there's someone who's going to come back. Rich is very mentally strong, and I'm sure we'll see him in the near future.
Well, this show in large part was built around the presence of one Kung Lee. He comes through in a major way here tonight as he splatters Rich Franklin on the canvas and gets his second straight UFC victory.
Now, I was able to see Kung Lee fight Wanderlei Silva when he fought in San Jose. Now, that was an epic bout because Kung Lee was actually giving it to Silva for a while. But have you ever seen any of Kung Lee's fights besides the knockout? And if you haven't, what do you think about kicks? The effectiveness of kicks that you've been able to see in the cage. Do you think that kicks maybe are used too much, not enough? What are your thoughts?
I think that they're not used quite enough, or maybe not as tactically sound as they can be. You going up against somebody like Jose Aldo, who just demolished.
He will knock you out with
California
any
kid.
part of his body.
Yeah.
Any part of his body that he can.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that Kung Lee talked about, being able to train, get the finish. He talked at the post-fight presser. And before we move on to some of our local news and awesome metal coverage, that we're going to be playing you an awesome song. What's Death Grip, right?
Death Grip.
We're going to be playing Death Grip tonight on air for you. A nice little preview of Legion's Requiem, our metal guest in studio. But let's hear Kung Lee and some of the post-fight presser highlights before we move on.
Rich was timing my kicks. Every time I would kick, he would throw punches. And then, I just caught him with the punch. I mean, I was in the moment, and I'm definitely glad that I've been working a lot more on my hands, because at one point my foot was kind of messed up, so I didn't get a chance to kick much during training. And then, my training camp and trainers pushed Scott Shilley, just worked my hands to death, and I got the knockout with my hands. It was amazing.
It's just an honor for me to fight in China, and I come from a small island, and fight with a lot of heart, and I knew that Chia Kwang is gonna bring a war to me as well. So I knew we were gonna have an awesome fight, and I didn't expect nothing less. And it was a nice ground battle between the both of us, and I know that he wanted to keep it exciting for the fans and the Chinese to enjoy, and so did I. So I hope everybody enjoyed our fight.
And we're going to stop it right there because I'm not going to be translating Chinese. I have no idea what that guy's going to be saying. But yeah, Kung Lee, another really impressive performance. And you hope to see him again in the future because he's been able to pull together two really good victories in that division. And, the next thing that you might be seeing is Kung Lee in some more movies. He might be taking some time off to get a little more badass, like Randy Couture style, and get a little bit more into the film industry. Remember that today's podcast is brought to you by MMA Gold. They're a fight management team. If you check out MMAGold.com, you'll read more about how they tailor each management approach to kind of an individual business and needs for their own fighters. So check out MMAGold.com. And Also, check out their store because 100% of the profits go right back into the fight management team. So you got to check that out. Let's get into some Bellator 79 news, which is going to get into one of our first live interviews that we were able to pull off with Josh Appel. He kind of talked to us about his Bellator 79 victory. But the main event of the evening for you guys, it was a heavyweight semifinal. Richard Hale, who was 20 wins, 4 losses against Thiago Santos, 11-1. I'll tell you a little bit more. We actually talked to Josh about it, who actually spoke to Santos after the fight. So we'll get a little bit of the highlights, and then we'll be able to hear Appel.
And finally, Jimmy, in the heavyweight tournament semifinal round, 2 fighters with a strong dislike for each other, Richard Hale versus Thiago Santos.
War of words before this fight. Who would back it up? In the beginning, it looked like Thiago, big monster Santos, hurt Richard Hale in the first minute of the first round, swarming him, but Hale able to stay in the fight, answered back with some strikes of his own, even though Santos got on top, got the takedown, put a lot of pressure on the much smaller heavyweight. But look here, losing a tooth. Thiago Santos lost both his front teeth, and after that, not mentally in the fight. A few moments later, took some shots, curled up here. Richard Hale all over him with both hands. Referee Dan Mergliotta taking a close look and steps in to stop the fight. What a comeback victory.
Hale wins by way of first round TKO, 3 minutes, 31 seconds.
Well, also in Bellator 79, if you were able to check out srmma.com, you would see that Josh Appelt was victorious in his Bellator 79 debut. He took on Ed Carpenter and got the TKO victory. We were able to speak to Appelt after the fight, so let's hear a little bit more of what he had to say. This is JWA of SRMMA.com. We're on the Verbal Scrap Podcast, episode 29, Collision Course, and we're talking to a victorious Josh Appelt who fought at Bellator 79, and you were able to pull a TKO victory. Could you tell us a little bit more about your thoughts now that you're, had the opportunity to have a few days to think about it?
Man, it was a great experience, huge show. Never fought in front of that many people before, and I was nervous at first, but once I got in the cage, I just went back to my old ways and just fighting. It was huge, though. I'm glad I went there to Canada and pulled off a victory and can't wait to go back.
Well, yeah, kind of tell us more about how that got set up with you. You were going to be fighting Freddie Aquitania at the Tachi Palace, and then next thing you know, boom, I'm hearing Josh Appelt's in Bellator, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. How'd that go down for you? How was that process for you?
Well, the process was weird because I was actually on a treadmill, and Dave Hirschbein, MMA Gold, called me, and he's like, "Hey, Josh, are you ready?" And I said, "Ready for what?" He's like, "You're going to go to Bellator." And I was like, "Man, quit messing with me, dude. I'm not going there yet." I said, "I got to keep a couple more wins." He's like, "No, they want you now."
Nice.
And it didn't set in until I actually got to Canada. Like, look, I'm fighting for Bellator.
That's awesome.
I wanted to, the Freddie fight. I still wanted that fight, but he's like, "Dude, they're going to sign you to a multiple fight contract." He's all, "You're good to go."
Yeah, let's consider that. I also heard that they after the fight you were signed to a multi-fight contract. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you feel about the opportunity?
Man, the opportunity is huge, man. It's like, I worked my way up. I fought everybody around here. Most of the heavyweights besides the ones that already went on, and it's just huge. I put in my time and my training, me driving from where I live up here in Marysville, City, or to Sacramento every day. I sold my ticket. I just put in the time, and I'm glad it finally came.
Well, now you got 4 consecutive knockout victories. I think that says a lot about the powerful hands that you have. What do you think that says about you as a fighter?
I mean, it says a lot. Most of they're TKOs, but a couple are standing, and a lot of them are on the ground, and that's where I feel most comfortable is on top position or bottom position on the ground. But my hands are just developing, and they're getting better and better. And I'm not. My game just getting more well-rounded. Like, I'll stand with you. If you want to stand, we'll go to the ground. If I want to take it to the ground, it's just wherever the fight goes, I'll be comfortable.
So I do have to ask you, everywhere online that I see reported about the fight, though, it says you won by submission, and I'm wondering if you have any idea why on earth that is.
I don't have no idea why it works and why it says that. I know the fight before me ended in a rear naked choke. But, I mean, you could talk to Dave, Hirschbein, MMA,
yeah.
Or MMA Gold, and my cornerman. I was throwing punches.
That's what was confusing for me, because, I was talking to him, and I was like, hey, they were there, they saw it.
Some pictures, I think, that were posted, and the refs pushing me away. I'm not getting off his back. I'm already standing up.
Yeah.
So it's weird, man. It's it is what it is. I don't let it bother me. People think I choked them out. Whatever, I choked them out.
I was just looking for confirmation from the source. If I can ask the fighter what happened, then it's a lot better than what I can read.
What happened was we stood most of the round when we traded, and I kept landing some big lefts. I'd counter a whole bunch of his punches, and he tried taking me down once. He got me against the fence. I landed a big elbow on him. We went back out and circled a little bit, and he came in again, and I got double underhooks. Picked him up, slammed him down, and then I kneed him a couple times. I just felt, I felt like his will go away. And I postured up and just started landing big old bombs on the side of his head, and the ref told him, fight back. I landed about 6 of them, and then I felt him go limp, like he wasn't there, and the ref pushed me away. And when I turned around, he was trying to take the ref down and stuff. So I was like, well, dude has to be out.
Yeah, that's usually a good indication if they're taking out the ref.
Yeah, he was trying to take the ref down, so...
Well, we're talking to Josh Appelt. If you check out srmma.com, you can see the Bellator 79 results and Fight Gifts article and kind of see what we're talking about. And I was wondering if you had an opportunity to see any of the heavyweight card that was also, the main event of the evening on the card that you were fighting on Bellator 79, maybe Richard Hale and the Thiago Santos fight. Did you see any of that stuff?
Yeah, I actually, because I fought after them, so actually in the back, during warm-ups, they had all the fights going on, and I got to watch the heavyweights earlier in the prelims, and then the Richard Hale one, and they're both big heavyweights. They're good fighters, but I'll go in there and bang with either one of them. It doesn't bother me.
And that was what I was going to ask. You were on a card with heavyweights showcased. What were your thoughts about what you could do in Bellator before kind of coming in? And now that you've been in it, what do you think of the Bellator landscape and what you can do to it?
There's a lot of well-rounded fighters in Bellator. The heavyweights are getting bigger and better. Bellator's building. But the heavyweights they have in, I think I can stand and go with any one of them. That's all I can say. There's a couple lankier ones, there's a couple shorter ones. That doesn't matter to me. A fight's a fight.
Well, after the fight, you were very thankful on your public Facebook of your sparring partners and training partners at Hole in the Wall and all the stuff you do. What was the process leading up to Bellator? Behind the scenes for such a big fight. What was that process for you?
Man, behind the scenes, it's weird because I was getting ready for a big fight with Freddie, and so I really didn't change much. But with the Bellator, it's kind of like a regional show again. I had 3 different opponents in less than a week.
Yeah, I noticed that you were going back and forth
Bellator.
between Carpenter and Kudin, I believe, and what was that? What was that like?
Rama, something Rama, and I was like, wow, And then Tuesday of this week that just passed, they called me again and wanted me to fight December 7th in Atlantic City, Caesar Palace, against Alex Kudin.
And that was one of the opponents you were given potentially for this fight as well, right?
Yeah, that was one of the opponents I was given, but Canada didn't pass it through or something. For some reason, the commission didn't pass it through. And so, they still kept me on the card, and, I got to fight Carpenter.
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you, now that you've been in Bellator, you've tasted it, what do you think the training aspect that you've been doing so far up until this, is it going to change in any way, or do you have any thoughts about how you want to do it?
It's going to change tremendously, just with my strength and conditioning, my cardio. I'm going to up my cardio, my hands, my ground, my diet. I'm just going to change everything because I want to succeed at that level. I'm the number one alternate to go in the tournament.
Nice.
In the heavyweight tournament, so I'm excited. Hopefully I get in it. If not, I'll probably be fighting late January, February.
Well, Josh APPELT, I wanted to give you the opportunity to give a shout-out to anybody that you maybe have already given or have maybe forgotten before, and you want to just give them a shout-out now. So go ahead. The time's yours.
I'm going to give a shout-out to MMA Gold, Dave Erskine. He does a lot for me. You guys, SR MMA. Huckleberry Hole in the Wall, Mike's Body Shop. He's my hands coach, and just my family. They support me in everything I do.
Well, you can check out Josh APPELT on his public Facebook. Just hit it in the search bar, and you can always check out facebook.com/SRMMA for more information. I really appreciate your time, and congratulations on your Bellator 79 win, Josh.
Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate it, man.
And there you go. That was APPELT from Bellator 79. If you guys haven't checked it out, like I said, you got to go to srmma.com. Check out our post-fight coverage, and you'll be able to get a little bit more in-depth into the mind and the background of Josh Appelt's body when he comes to his training at Dave Huckaba's MMA Gold. So let's hear. Now, I wanted to actually ask you.
Yeah.
You've been able to see GSP. So we're going to be talking about, a lot of things coming up on the show.
Yeah.
We got UFC 154 coverage. George St. Pierre coming back against Carlos Condit is one of the things we're going to be talking about. Some of the extensive coverage, the extensive preview. But I wanted to ask you, George St. Pierre coming back. A lot of people feel like he's got the potential to come back 100%. Do you think that, without being like a doctor, not diagnosing his injury, but just maybe from a mental standpoint, what do you think coming back as a fighter like that might be? Coming back to go for a title you already have, coming back from injury, and how much pressure do you think he might feel?
For a year and a half off?
Quite some time.
Yeah, no, it's a really long time, and I haven't seen many fights that have gone well for the person coming back from such an extended leave of absence.
So GSP against Carlos Condit. I mean, do you see Carlos Condit as at least an equitable champion, interim champion against George St. Pierre?
Absolutely. He's the interim champion for a reason.
And did you see Nick Diaz fighting Carlos Condit?
Yes.
So what were your thoughts about a lot of people gave him, a lot of grief because he's ducking and running Diaz. I didn't think he was ducking and running Diaz. He wasn't going to stand there and swing and bang with Diaz.
No, yeah. It's just smart fighting. I mean, like he's a very tactical, fighter. He's
a tactical cat.
Yeah, tactical cat. Yeah.
That's what I would call him. I think we should coin that phrase now, tactical cat.
A tactical cat.
Well, I mean, if it comes to if you think GSP and Carlos Condit matching up now, that's a matchup that Carlos Condit waited for. He didn't want to take anybody else. Do you think that was a good thing for him? Maybe to train. Do you think maybe she should have taken a fight in this layoff? Because it's been like a layoff for him as well. You got to think if GSP wasn't fighting and he's waiting for GSP to come back, that's a layoff for him as well. So you think maybe the time off might give Condit a little rusty rust, huh?
It's hard to say. I think that I can understand why he wants to take this fight because he's the interim champion.
Yes, exactly.
He wants to take that name off. He wants to be the champion, and I can understand not putting this fight off with GSP to take on another fight. I can understand that.
Well, we got a lot more coverage coming, but I wanted to give you guys a little snippet of the UFC Primetime St. Pierre versus Carlos Condit episode number 2. If you guys haven't been able to check out UFC Primetime, they've been getting really good at it. They've been they put together this show, and it's just like even if you were excited about a fight, you're even more excited. So whoever they're paying to get that done, bravo.
Previously on UFC Primetime.
ACL injuries have crippled careers. Some guys have never come back, but if there's one guy who can come back in MMA, I believe it's GSP.
It's never good to get injured, but I truly believe it's going to make me come back better and stronger than I was before. This whole thing helped me get the fire back.
I have a lot on my plate between my career and my family life, but that's me. That's my life. It's what I chose, and I love every second of it.
Love you. Carlos is the champion. He's the one who's got that belt around his waist, and we all consider him to be the champion. Glory is fleeting, and I think George wants to recapture some of his glory.
I think he's coming in with a point to prove. I want to fight the best GSP there's ever been. He says he's found new motivation. He's got a fire lit under his ass, and I believe that. I'm excited by that. That fires me up. I'm the interim champion. I have to go in there. I have to take it to him. I have to win this fight.
And if you weren't excited before, that had to make you a little bit excited. George St. Pierre coming back from the injury, coming to take that title back. He's not interim champion. He's the legitimate welterweight champion. Would you not say so, Steve?
Absolutely.
And Carlos Condit being the interim champion, would you say that is like a knock? Do you think that the title interim is a knock on champion in any way? Yes, no, maybe?
I don't think so.
Exactly. That's my thought. No, I'm just asking because that's what I've heard. That is exactly what I've heard. And here you are. You're on the episode 29 of the Verbal Slap Podcast, Collision Course, because we got Tachi Palace 15 preview coming. But first, I want to get into some Tom Gaffney, UCA Rankings Chairman, Boxing News. He always stops in on. He's becoming a friend of the podcast. I would say if there were friends of the podcast, UCA Rankings Chairman, go to UnitedCombatAssociation.com if you want to see his blog. He keeps an up-to-date blog of Battle of the Badges events. So it's a really good guy, and he's able to make it with us and talk boxing as well. So let's hear what Tom Gaffney has to say, and then we'll be back with the episode 29. Jaywan, SRMMA.com on the Verbal Scrap podcast with the UCA Rankings Chairman, Tom Gaffney. How's the evening going for you today, sir?
Things are going great.
UCA Rankings Chairman, Tom Gaffney. I wanted to ask you first and foremost about the October 6th event. You know, you weren't able to chit-chat with me personally about results yet, so tell me your thoughts about how you thought the whole evening went.
Wow, it was another great night of boxing. Every time they just come and they bring it, you know, from the first bout all the way to the main event. Just so overall, awesome night.
Well, the main event of the evening, you know, tell me a little bit more about it. The winner is set to take on James Davis. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it was Santa Clara PD, Matt Wardinger, the number one ranked guy, took on Ricky Stewart, who moved up from the super middleweight division. He's the number one ranked guy there in hopes of getting a title shot. And he traveled all the way from Big Bear and put on a great fight. Awesome fight. Very technical, high skill level fight. But he was on the losing end of the fight. Matt Wardinger picked up the win, and now he's guaranteed a title shot against the current champion, James Davis from Folsom Prison.
Well, I mean, James Davis, I've been able to see him, you know. Have you got any inside information about either of those guys' thoughts of fighting one another, or do you have your own personal opinion about that matchup? Because it seems like it'd be pretty good.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight. And James was invited to the show. He sat in the front row. They introduced him. He went to each guy and congratulated him. And he knows that's who he's fighting. And it's a very intriguing matchup. Wardinger has the advantage fighting on the inside. I mean, he is picture perfect fighting on the inside, ripping hooks and uppercuts. He's tough on the inside. I haven't seen how Wardinger is going to be able to react to James Davis's footwork and the movement, so that may cause him some trouble. So if Wardinger can cut the ring off and get him in the corner, I would give the advantage to Wardinger. If Wardinger can't cut the ring off and James is able to use his footwork and outbox him, then it's going to be James' fight. But this is what you want. You want a classic fight like this. So I'm excited for it.
Well, as far as the October 6th card went, what did it mean to you guys to be able to have guys come up from SoCal and come onto the event and be able to put it out in the capital city and put on a show that was really nice? I saw a lot of the pictures with a nice dark sky backdrop, and it seemed like it was a really fun and festive experience for fans. So what did that mean to you guys to be able to kind of work with SoCal agencies and stuff like that to get their guys to come up here?
You know, it's huge. I think it gives us a lot of credibility of those guys traveling all the way up here when they have fights down there, you know, every 2-3 months. So we must be doing something right, whether it's, you know, we're putting on a great show, we treat the fighters well, we make good matchups for them, and they get an opportunity to fight for a belt. So I think that might be the biggest advantage that we have for those guys to come up here. So, and at the same time, we treat them good. We feed the fighters, the guys coming in from out of town. We pay for their hotel stay for, you know, the 2 nights. And, you know, we treat them well, and I think they appreciate it, and they go back. You know, we had Juan Bustamante. He came up from LAPD last time, and he went back and told everybody. And when I talked to them, you know, he said, hey, Juan had nothing but good things to say about you guys. We want to come up. We want to bring our fighters up there. I think it's just the way we treat the fighters, and then we put on a great show.
We're talking to UCA Rankings Chairman Tom Gaffney. I had to ask you, since you're kind of like my boxing insider, about some of the big-name fights that are going to be happening the rest of the year. So I'll give you the matchup. Just give me some quick thoughts, and if you don't have any thoughts on it, just feel free to tell me now, and I'll save the best one for last one. First and foremost, on November 17th, you got Antonio DeMarco, who's going to be taking on Adrian Broner. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yes, man, I think that kid is going to give Broner some trouble. I am really excited about that fight. That kid, DeMarco, man, he's long, and he keeps you at the end of his punches. He's got good movement. He's got speed. So that kind of negates the speed of Broner. Broner is crafty, but I think DeMarco is going to be prepared for it, and I think that's going to be an upset. Honestly, I don't know what the line is on the fight, but I'm going with DeMarco.
DeMarco over Broner for Gaffney. That is one pick for you. Now, the second one I have is a fight that I'm actually really excited about. Probably one of my sleeper picks for a fight of the year. Nonito Donaire set to take on Jorge Arce at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas at the end of the year. You have any thoughts on this really tiny guys matchup, but they're full of fury?
Yes, man, I am big on Donaire. I'm a big fan of his, and maybe it's going to get the best of me, but his movement, he just can do everything right. And he's just, I think he's just too big for that weight class. I mean, they step on the scales, it's the same, but he just looks so much bigger than everybody else. He's taller. I remember him as an amateur fighting, and I've just always been impressed with him. So, a good fight, but I think Donaire will figure him out and probably stop him, before the 8th or 9th round.
Well, the last major matchup I wanted to ask you about, it seems like we've talked about this matchup a couple times before, but let's talk about it again. Manny Pacquiao taking on Juan Marquez December 8th. Do you have any thoughts on their fourth matchup?
You know what? Their styles, they match up, and it's going to go down to 12 rounds, and how the judges see it. I think it's going to be close, and it could be another Bradley-Pacquiao fight to where one judge sees it one way, the other judge sees it the other way, and I don't know. I'm not really excited about it. Yeah, it's going to be an action-packed fight. I'm a big fight fan, so I'm going to watch it. But I'd rather see something else. But no, I don't. I think it could be a split decision. It could be a draw. It could go either way.
So if you had to bet money on those three, you'd be picking Donaire and Arce. That's what you were going for.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you before we let you go, you got to give us an update on BOTB news and anything that UCA's got going on.
Absolutely. So the end of the month, I'll be going to LA. LA's throwing their Fight for Life Battle of the Badges event. It's probably, as far as talent-wise, it's probably one of the most talent-filled cards of the year. Always, all the top guys come out and fight. Whether that's like the number one guy, Chris Barrios, he'll be fighting. The guy he's fighting is tough, and he'll put on a good fight. He's not going to get blown out. He's going to be fighting in his hometown, so that's going to be an intriguing matchup because Chris Barrios hasn't fought in maybe almost 2 years because the level of competition just isn't there. So that's going to be exciting to see. The current champion, Brian Stevens, is also going to fight on that card. He's always exciting to watch. And then Aurelio Vasquez, he's becoming one of my favorite fighters. He's coming off fight of the night, traveled to Sacramento from LAPD to fight James Smith, won the fight of the night, and he's stepping back in the ring again on November 30th, a part of their show. So that's another good fight. And then we have the trilogy with Angel Vasquez versus Freddie and Cenas, and it's split. So that's another intriguing matchup. So I'm excited about that one. And then the next day, with December 1st, Soap Battle of the Badges is throwing the first ever all-female Battle of the Badges card. And it's at Apollo Casino. So that's pretty exciting. There's some talented female fighters on that card. And,
you might sell some tickets to that.
You and I both watched the fight in Alameda. Whenever you get girl fights in there, don't go get a drink, don't go to the bathroom because you're gonna see a great fight. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, you can check out UnitedCombatAssociation.com. Click the blog section. It's very interesting. You can check out some updated information that my friend Tom Gaffney, who's the UCA Rankings Chairman, updates himself. I appreciate you being on the podcast, and I really look forward to some more BOTB action down the road.
You got it, man. My pleasure.
And that was Tom Gaffney. I'd like to give a big shout out to that guy, by the way. He's always on the show. Friend of the podcast. It's good to have friends. We have new friends. Some of our first live metal band in studio. A new member is here. Dun, 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 dun. It's Scott Moda, everybody.
Scott Moda.
Scott Moda's in studio. The bassist for Legion's Requiem. How are you doing today, Scott?
How's it going?
You sound really sexy on the radio, man, I tell you.
Thank you.
Okay, you sound a little less sexy on the radio, but it's good to have you guys in studio. I wanted to have Steven over here kind of tell us a little bit more about the song we're going to be playing, Death Grip, a little bit later.
Death Grip, that was actually one of the first songs that I wrote for this band, like maybe 6 years ago, and we're still playing it because
it's so ripping awesome.
Shows the progress of the band. Right?
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, if Metallica, you play the same stuff. I mean, they don't play any new things, right? Nothing new.
No, well,
they play all their old stuff.
Because that's what fans want to hear. No one wants to hear the new stuff.
So wait, so would you say that Death Grip is just played so much because it's so good, or because you just haven't written anything new?
I know. I really like the song, and we've definitely changed it up a bit over the years and added on.
Well, tell us more about the sound. Well, give us maybe 3 quick bands that fans might be able to associate you guys similar to.
Now.
Now or then, because
you could. It's like a. If you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be? Pick 3 bands, any of them.
Oh, okay. So I would say that some of the bands that we really take from during the writing process would be like Testament, Gojira, Meshuggah, Pantera, yeah,
Decapitated.
Yes. Yes.
So about 10 bands. Yeah. There's about 10 bands that you guys modeled yourselves after.
Yes.
Well, we're going to be playing Death Grip a little bit later on the show. Some other stuff we have on the show. Tachi Palace 15 preview happening this Thursday. I'm going to be in Lemoore, California at Tachi Palace Casino watching something that's going to be aired on ShareDog.com, so you guys can check that out. That's always fun. Light heavyweight title on the line. We got Freddie Big, Anthony Avila, who also is going to be fighting on the card with Andre the Fury Feely. So much stuff happening there. You heard Tom Gaffney talk about all that boxing news. You got Ty Silva. Now, this is an interview I'm looking forward to. Our Brazilian correspondent, Ty Silva, who spent some time in Brazil and in Folsom. He was obviously a little bit biased towards the Brazilians, but he's very into it, and that's always good. So he's going to be talking about some of the things that we're going to be talking about later. We'll be talking about Bisping Belfort a little bit more in depth. We're going to be talking about should fighters be having sex before fighting. Freddie Roach, you were telling me as well, Mr. Moda. You saw the Freddie Roach video we'll be playing. Should fighters be having sex before fighting? That's going to be an interesting topic. And you're also going to be able to win some MMA Gold gear later on the show, because our show is that awesome. Episode 29, Collision Course. You're listening on srmma.com right now. So let me ask you, I didn't get a chance to ask your thoughts, Scott, since you just got in. We'll be talking a little bit more later about UFC 154, but GSP Condit, we talked to Steve about it. GSP coming back from a long layoff.
Yes.
Everyone talks ring rust, but I asked him more about a mental aspect. GSP sounds like he's hungry and wants to come back and retain what he had, but there's got to be something in the back of his mind, like, hey, can I, like a running back coming back or something?
Absolutely.
Can I cut on this? What are your thoughts that GSP might have in the back of his mind?
I think he's already psyching himself up in the right way. He's looking at it that he's the underdog, that he's not the champion, that he's got to win his championship over again. And he's looking at Carlos Condit as the best guy in the world, the hottest guy, and he feels like he has to prove it to himself to win it. And honestly, in my opinion, Carlos Condit's deadly. He's an amazing fighter. He comes back. We saw him against Rory McDonald. He's getting his ass handed to him, and he comes back in the third. Right at the end.
I think that was the one with where the ref kind of stepped in and stopped it. Right?
Yeah, with 10 seconds left. I thought that there was 7 seconds.
If he wouldn't have stopped it, Rory would have won that.
He would have won that fight. Still.
But
no, it was an incredible fight. But I think GSP, it's his fight to lose, in my opinion, just because of the athlete he is. I know it's a long time for him, and a knee injury is a serious injury, but that guy's taken everything to the max. He's a serious trainer, serious fighter. He cares about his diet, and it's year round for this guy. It's his fight.
It's a lifestyle.
It is.
It's not just like a, hey, I like the tattoos, I'm a badass, I can pick up, hot chicks with pretty hair because I rock out on stage, right? It's more like, I can fight.
No offense, he's not Brandon Vera. So, oh God, I don't want to get my ass kicked in the future. But no, he's a legit fighter, and he wants to be the best in the world.
Well, we have a video of pros picking GSP Condit, so let's hear a little bit about that before we move on with the show.
GSP by knockout.
No doubt about that. GSP is going to take the win all the way. Condit, he has the skills and everything, but GSP is well versed in all areas. Great jiu-jitsu, great wrestling. I have a feeling he's going to take it down and get a submission.
I think GSP knows how to get in shape. I think he knows his body. I think he's a very intelligent, very clever fighter. Is that going to be enough for Carlos Condit? I think so.
They're both good dressers, but George St. Pierre dresses a little better. Sorry, Carlos.
I used to lean towards GSP for a decision victory because of wrestling and takedowns. I think that he was going to take him down and hold him down 5 rounds. But actually, the closer we're getting to the fight, the more I'm starting to lean towards Condit. I think Carlos is, he's not going to quit. He's going to keep going strong for all those 5 rounds. And it doesn't matter if you lose the first 3 rounds. Condit, he will not quit. He's going to keep going. I can see him catching him with something crazy. He'll take chances. He'll try to flying knee and try to time that shot. He'll try to spinning elbow. He'll try something, and I can see him catching GSP with something and make GSP quit.
I'd like to see Condit come away with it, man. I think he's got the skills and the and the talent to do it. Definitely the mentality and the mindset. We've seen that before. And I think if this is the time to do it, the time to beat GSP, it's now. Coming off that loss and having been in the octagon for as long as he has, it might be that time. So I'm going to go with Condit.
For St. Pierre, I think it's about him being smart, and while it is good to be aggressive, still staying within himself. Carlos Condit, I think it's about testing St. Pierre. He'll have a long layoff. He had ACL surgery, so he have a long layoff. So you have to push him, and test that ring rust of his. If I had to bet, I've never bet, but if I had to bet, I might take the underdog just for the odds.
I see George winning against Carlos, and the other one I don't care.
That was Jake Ellensberger, by the way, finishing that off. So before we move on to our Tachi Palace 15 preview, I have to ask you guys, blank, this is Money Talk, gut check. Scott Moda of Legion's Requiem. If you guys don't know who you're listening to in studio, we got Stephen Ward, who's a guitarist, lead singer. Well, what's the whole thing now? You guys got a new singer. Just explain that really quick.
Yeah, we brought in a new guy for vocalist, so I'm going to step to just guitar and do
you're just rocking
vocals.
out.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see what's going on. Okay, so let's go Stephen first. Carlos Condit, GSP. Who's your pick and why? Got to make one. You're on air.
I'm on air. I think
on air.
I'm going to go with Carlos Condit.
Oh, nice.
Carlos Condit.
I think, yeah.
Now, maybe 1-2 sentences. What do you think he's going to do to pull it off?
I think that he's going to be aware of GSP's talent. He's going to play it smart. He's not really going to take. He's going to probably put in some flash and take a couple of chances. But I think that's what the championship needs. I think it needs somebody who's willing to step out of their box a little bit.
I agree on his perspective.
That's
Scott
nice.
Moda, bassist of Legion's Requiem. Let me know your thoughts. GSP coming back.
Now I've seen.
Wait, hold on.
Okay,
First,
go ahead.
the pick. Who's the pick?
I'm going GSP.
George St. Pierre. So we got a Condit and a St. Pierre. Now
but
what?
Here's the thing. I've watched GSP get knocked out by Matt Serra. I've watched him lose against Hughes. You know what I mean? And I've watched him get, kind of shook up in fights here and there. But I do think Carlos Condit could be the guy to do it. He's knocked people out in spectacular fashion. He's like 90% on finishing in the UFC or something like that. He's got an incredible record. But I don't know. GSP is quick. He knows how to get people out of their game plans. People are super confident when they go in there, and he breaks them. And
you think he's going to break Condit? The natural born killer. That's what you're saying. I mean, if you're saying he breaks him, you're saying he breaks Condit.
I think, you know what? I think he can get Condit down.
Is it okay? Are you saying like it's a decision like GSP, or you think he's going to break Condit? What are your thoughts?
I don't think he's going to knock out Condit.
Fair enough.
You know what? I don't think he's going to sub Condit, but I do think.
So you think he's going to get a decision against Condit? Thanks a lot, Mr. Moda of Legion's Requiem. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and break this tie. I'm going to go Condit. I'm going to side with Steven, only because I felt really awesome when I was like, oh, Condit's going to beat Diaz, even though Diaz is awesome, and he did, and I felt really smart about it. And then there was a bunch of backlash. But I think that Condit.
I paid for that fight.
I think exactly. I think I watched it when you paid for that fight.
Yeah.
So I think Condit's prepared, and I think there's a good chance that, GSP might be like 70% of GSP, which would beat a lot of dudes. But
No,
Condit doesn't seem to be like, even when Diaz was in his face, Condit didn't break game plan.
Yeah.
So if I think if GSP's got the killer mojo or break you down, I think Condit's got the game plan, and we'll see what happens.
That and Varasa Hobby's gym's just been losing up the wazoo. It's not. I know it's like a TriStar. They were really good at one time. It's not been good.
Well, that brings us into a Tachi Palace 15 preview. If you guys don't know, you can check out srmma.com for all that post-fight coverage. Hit us up on our Twitter, @srmma tweets. Are you guys Twitter cats? Yes? No?
No.
Yes.
Yes, we got one. Twitter.
Legion's Requiem does have a Twitter.
Legion's Requiem. So hit him up on Twitter. Is it at Legion's Requiem?
Yes.
There you go. You got to hit up at Legion's Requiem. But first, you got to go to at SRMMA tweets. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Of course.
But, hit us up on Facebook /SRMMA. Right now, we're going to get into Tachi Palace 15. We got Anthony Avila, who we're going to be interviewing, or who we're going to be hearing the interview of first. And we got Freddie Big, and the main event titleist is going to be fighting light heavyweight title Angel Deonda. But let's first hear Anthony Avila and what he had to say about his fight. This is Jay Wah from SRMMA.com on Verbal Scrap Podcast with my man who's going to be fighting at the TPF 15 event on November 15th, Anthony Avila. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, brother. How about you?
Man, I'm doing great, man. You seem to be doing good lately, considering you got such a winning streak going with a bunch of finishes. What's that feeling like? Kind of continuing to put on a show where it's not just you're getting decisions and people aren't, getting bored watching you fight. You're super smooth in the cage and you're just picking up these decisive wins, especially with 3 consecutive submission victories.
Man, I love it. I never want to go in there and get hit. If I can never get hit, that'd be great. But I know this fight coming up, I think it's going to be a good one for you guys to watch.
Well, you're still fighting Darren Crisp, is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about him recently? You guys have a recent victory over the same guy, but he's got 2 consecutive victories by finish as well. Have you been able to see any of his previous work?
I was actually at his last fight. One of my good friends is on his team, so I went out there to go to those fights, and it happened to be the same fight that he was fighting Sergio. And yeah, I was there. I seen it.
Well, you didn't really give me any thoughts, though. You just said you saw it.
Man, I want to be respectful. I'm really not good at disrespecting people in the media. I think he's a lot better than what he displayed in that fight, for sure.
Well, what about TPF 15? It's turned out to be a pretty stacked card. You got Anthony Ruiz and Angel Deonda fighting for the light heavyweight title. Your boy Andre Fili on the card, finally getting to fight Chris Saunders. What are your thoughts on all the big names that you've been able to see kind of gathered on this card? And what's your excitement level as it kind of gets closer and closer to next weekend?
Man, I just think about it as another day in the life. I figure it's practice you guys get to see. With you guys just watching, that's all it is. And I'm getting paid for it. Oh, and I gotta fucking cut my leg off to make weight.
So it's like
about the Andre Fili thing. Andre Fili's no longer competing against Chris Saunders.
Oh, for real? What's going on?
Yeah. Sorry to break it to you guys. He's not fighting Chris Saunders. Chris Saunders, for whatever fucking reason, pulled out. He has no reason. He just said he pulled out. He didn't want the loss. So he just wanted to pull out the fight. So he's not fighting him. He's now fighting Enoch Wilson.
So he's still got an opponent, though. Fili's going to be on the card.
Yeah, he's just not fighting Chris Saunders. Chris Saunders pulled out once again.
Man, that's not cool, because that happened in the last fight, too, as well, didn't it? Wasn't he scheduled to fight Saunders?
I guess he's good at pulling out. Maybe he'll never get her pregnant.
Oh, I like it. About, what you want to do, you've been doing a lot of things lately, kind of having a good time and being yourself. What's it been like since your last fight, just hanging out with the friends, family, and just getting back to the training environment?
Man, to be honest, I didn't get to take any time off. Or actually, I took a week off, and that was cool. I got some tattoos, and other than that,
tattoos.
I did back in the gym. I wish I could take some time off after this fight. I'm actually going to take a little bit of time off. So we just got this really nice house. Not me, Andre Fili, and a couple of my other buddies from my hometown, and we haven't even really got to experience how cool our house is yet.
Yeah, I feel you.
On the grind, so I'm excited for that.
Well, if you're going to take some time off, I'm sure you're going to be watching all the UFCs and stuff. Are you a big UFC fan, considering that's where you want to get to? Do you actually watch a lot of the events?
Man, I watch every event. Well, let me retouch on that. Taking some time off. I'm going to take time off from competing as far as like fighting. I'm not going to be taking time off at the gym. I'll still be there working out, bettering myself in the areas that I feel like I'm weakest at. But yeah, I keep knocking on the door. Eventually, Dana White's going to have to open the door and give me a call,
Well,
I'll be ready.
The one thing I wanted to ask you about the UFC is on the same weekend, you got GSP and Carlos Condit on the card, and I was wondering if you had maybe some thoughts about the matchup and maybe how you think it's going to go.
I think GSP is just a better athlete than Carlos Condit, but Carlos Condit shows that he's game. He's game for a fight, but I think GSP would be able to take him down and beat him up on the ground and tire him out, and eventually even maybe even tire him out early in the early rounds and then beat him up standing up in the later rounds.
So you're not worried about GSP's time off and the injury? You think he's back to 100%?
I don't think he'll be back to 100%. I think he might be a little bit rusty right out the gate, but I think it'll all come back to him.
Well, actually, it just popped into my head. I have one last UFC question for you. What are your thoughts about John Jones and Chael Sonnen being coaches and actually Chael Sonnen getting to fight for the light heavyweight title and not really going through any of the division? Have you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, the guy's a good talker, and UFC is a business. Obviously we fight, and you should probably have to beat a couple people up before you get to fight, but that fight is going to sell so much just from Chael Sonnen, the way he talks and promotes fights, and then for them to be on TV for 6 weeks or whatever it is, that's going to be amazing for the UFC, especially because I heard the ratings keep dropping from the Ultimate Fighter. I think that'll help him a lot.
Well, I mean, some stuff about you. I saw the walkout stuff you're going to be having, and how you kind of digging the whole shark persona? You enjoying the logos and the stuff you got coming out this time?
Yeah, for sure. I got a dope little shirt. I mean, I sold quite a bit too. I got a couple left though, but yeah, the whole shark thing is dope. I love it.
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you, this fight, I'm sure that every fight you got the same thing, and you've been able to make statements. So the question I wanted to ask you is not, what do you want to do this fight, but after you go out there and put on another solid performance, do you think that there's any case that why you shouldn't be able to get into the big name shows, maybe like a Bellator UFC kind of thing, considering there's the guys that are getting in there that, may not have put in the work or have the submission/TKO wins like you do?
No, to be honest, I no disrespect to Bellator, but I have no plans on going to Bellator or any other organization for that matter. I just
UFC.
UFC. And I really don't see any reason why. I mean, the 45-pound division in UFC right now is real stacked and real crowded, so maybe as soon as a couple of these guys keep losing and they get kicked out, they give me a call.
Well, I wanted to give you a chance to give some shout-outs to anybody that you wanted to give a shout-out to before you were off the show.
First, I want to give a shout-out to Dave Hirschbein over there at MMA Gold, my whole team, Alpha Male. Sacramento CrossFit, Josh Emmett, Jay, you guys are the best, man. My girlfriend who helps me out a lot, man, she puts up with me. All my buddies, the whole house. We got a place called the Base Temple. Shout out to all those guys. And everybody else. Vineyard Den Restaurant over there in Lemoore, California. That's also the best place to eat in Lemoore, where Tachi is held. You guys got to go check that out. And everybody else, man. Everybody that puts up with me, I appreciate it. Come on, check it out. Shout out to Derek Chris for taking the fight. I know he's a good guy. He's a tough fighter, and I'm expecting war.
I'm not going to lie, there's almost nothing around Tachi Palace sometimes, so you're going to have to text me that restaurant place. I'm going to hit it up when we're down there. No joke, man.
All right.
Thanks a lot for being on the show, man.
It's a good place, man. Good people own it, and, it's ran properly and professionally as well.
Hey, man, I'm going to be hungry after your fight, so if you want to check out the fight in November, you can go to TachiPalaceCasino.com for ticket information. Thank you so much for being on the show, Anthony.
Thank you, brother.
SRMMA.com presents Verbal Scrap. Fight news with a passion. You are on episode 29 of the Verbal Scrap Podcast, Collision Course. We are live in studio with special guests from Legion's Requiem, Sacramento metal band, with bassist Scott Mota and former lead singer and now guitarist. So I'm going to call you a singer.
Lead kiss what?
I was like, what would be a hybrid of guitarist and singer? A singer. That's all. That's all. He's a singing thing.
A sitar.
You guys should totally add that now that I think about it.
Now I think
you could start a pit with a sitar.
Yep.
If you guys could pull that off.
If Niall hasn't done it already.
Got real. Yeah. There's a sitar.
Well, we're going to be listening to Death Grip of Legion's Requiem a little bit later. Actually, pretty soon, now that I think about it. We got some national news. We're going to be talking about should fighters be having sex before fights. JDS and Overeem, potentially, even though you still got Cain Velasquez right on the horizon.
I was already supposed to see that fight.
Yeah, I actually paid money to see those tickets. I was in Vegas.
Yeah, I was in Vegas with you. I remember seeing you there.
Yeah, and we were both disappointed. Yeah. So, either way, we're going to get into that news. We got Ben Kramer of NorCal Combat. He's going to be fighting NorCal Combat 5 this weekend. Aspen Ladd, Rebel Fighter. We're going to be there. This is stuff that SRMMA is going to be covering. We're going to continue our Tachi Palace 15 coverage right now with Freddie Big. And Freddie Aquitania is going to be fighting on the card. He was originally scheduled to fight Josh APPELT, who you heard earlier on the show. But now he's got a chance to avenge his only professional loss, and we were able to talk to him, so let's hear what he had to say.
This is JWA from SRMA.com. We are here talking to Freddie Aquitania, who's going to be fighting at Tachi Palace 15. You're going to be having an opportunity to avenge a loss. You know, what are your thoughts on A, fighting in Tachi again, and B, the opportunity to go against someone that you've competed against before?
I'm super excited to get this shot. I've wanted a rematch since the fight happened, and I'm definitely happy about fighting for Tachi Palace. I think it's definitely by far the best show in California.
Well, as far as training with Team Alpha Male, you know, you were originally, when I talked to you previously, you were going to fight Josh APPELT at Tachi, you know, and he went on to fight at Bellator. What are your thoughts on switching opponents? Does it affect your training in any way, and how's the training atmosphere going for this fight?
You know, at first when I found out that I wasn't going to get to fight Josh, I was a little disappointed, but you know, they say everything happens for a reason, and when I found out who my new opponent was, I was definitely pretty happy. I've already been training so long for this fight, and I feel like I'm well prepared. I'm a totally different fighter, so when I found out I was finally going to get this opportunity, I was definitely excited. I definitely jumped on it.
Well, Tachi Palace 15, you know, they're airing all their stuff live on ShareDog now, and it's a live stream. And, you know, at the previous show, you got guys in your gym, like Andre Feely, who's seen their highlights on Inside MMA and stuff like that. What do you think Tachi now, at this point in their production, what do you think a showing in their organization can do for you?
Oh, I definitely think that's the best part about fighting for the Palace is the overall exposure. It's definitely a high level of competition, and it's nice having all the mainstream media in attendance.
Well, last thing before I let you go, you know, everybody is usually skeptical as to, like, you know, knockouts, who's the best here, who's the best there, but a lot of people talk about you as being one of the top heavyweights in the Sacramento region. You know, what are you looking to do at Tachi Palace to kind of showcase that, and is there anything new that you've been working on, or are you just looking to go in and bang like you have been known to do?
Man, to be mentioned as one of the best heavyweights in the region, it's definitely an honor. The biggest thing is last time it was a really close split decision. Obviously, I felt like I won. So the main thing is I want to put my best foot forward, and I don't want to leave it in the hands of the judges.
Well, you can find post-fight coverage at SRMA.com. Thanks for talking to us, Freddie.
Oh, thanks a lot, Johnny. Thanks for pronouncing my name.
Hey, and the main event of the evening, Angel Deonda is going to be taking on the West Coast Fighting Light Heavyweight Champion. They're going to be fighting Anthony Ruiz for the main event light heavyweight title of Tachi Palace, which is a vacant title. Angel Deonda, he's 10-2. He's got his last 4 fights. I believe they're all knockout finishes. Anthony Ruiz, he finished 3 of his last 4 fights. So it's going to be a big, epic main event fight. And we were able to speak to Deonda before the affair, so let's hear what he had to say. This is JWA from SRMA.com. We're on the Verbal Scrap Podcast with Angel Deonda, who's going to be fighting at Tachi Palace 15 on November 15th down at the Tachi Palace Hotel and Casino. How you doing today, Angel?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm excited to get down there next weekend and watch this title fight. You know, first and foremost, I want to ask you I know you would have been really excited to take the main event, you know, like a Tachi Palace main event. But what was it? What was the feeling when you were told that it was going to be for a title as well?
It felt pretty good. Then they said it was going to be for a belt. I mean, you know, everybody wants to fight for a title, and I know if you win a title at Tachi, then you know that really will says a lot where I'm at in Central Valley.
Well, you know, your last fight, Tachi Palace 14, you were able to get the TKO over Drew Montgomery, who's, you know, really respected in the area. He's been able to establish himself as a dominant force as well. What was your thoughts on the fight, you know, as far as how it went your way and what that kind of gave you confidence going forward now that you got 3 consecutive TKO victories?
Fighting Drew gave me I felt pretty good. It was my 3rd 205 fight. I felt good for that fight. I kind of thought it was, you know, Drew didn't put up too much of a fight on the ground, and I thought his ground game was way better than that, and I was really training a lot of my jiu-jitsu. I would have been ready if he would have, you know, trying to throw up some submissions, but I just thought it would be a little bit more trickier on the floor with Drew. More challenging for me since he's got so much, his legs are so long.
Well, you know, people looking at your record, if you take a peek at what you've been doing, a lot of your finishes are first round finishes. And is that just something that you go out for every fight? Like, are you ever thinking like, I want to take it deep and see how it goes, or you just go for the first round, finish just as quickly as possible?
I just go for whatever opportunities they give me. And if my head's been happening to drop people, then I pounce on them and then just finish them. And I always train for a war and get mentally ready for a war, and it just
it happens to go my way fast and early, so I don't complain.
Well, last time we talked, you said you respected Anthony Ruiz as a fighter, and I was wondering, did you mean that more like, the simple fact that he fights, you respect, fighters in general, or have you been able to see a lot of his work, and do you have an opinion on what you've been able to see?
I have on his work, and both of them both of them really. I mean, he can take a beating and he can give a beating, and he's fought really good opponents. He just fought Russia's #1 205er.
Yeah,
that says a lot about him, and he's just a really tough guy, and I'm just glad to get in there and mix up with Anthony Ruiz.
Well, the last thing I wanted to ask you, if you got the Tachi light heavyweight title, is that something that you are looking to establish yourself as a dominant Tachi force, or are you looking to kind of stay there and defend it if you're able to get it? I mean, I don't want to look too far in the future, but is your plan to kind of get the title and try to go to the UFC or get as high as possible, or are you looking to kind of establish yourself as a sustained force in there?
Well, if I win the belt, which I plan on doing, when UFC calls, I'm not going to turn it down. That's the whole reason everybody fights is to get to the UFC and compete with the best competition in the world. So if I get a shot to get to the UFC, then I'll take it. If not, that's fine. I don't mind taking a Tachi and defending the belt and proving that I'm champion by defending the belt.
Well, on November 15th, if you go to TachiPalazCasino.com, you can check out ticket information for Angel Deondo is going to fight Anthony Ruiz for the light heavyweight title. You can check out SRMA.com for post-fight coverage. I really appreciate your time, Angel. Thank you so much for being with us, man.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
And there you go. If you guys haven't been able to check out any of the Bellator coverage lately, you saw your Bellator 79 coverage on SRMA.com with Josh Appelt. Bellator 80 also put in the final contender for the heavyweight tournament. For you guys that don't know, our previous guest on the card, Josh Appelt, is actually the #1 alternate for the Bellator heavyweight tournament with a chance to win $100,000, and he was really stoked about it. Obviously, you just heard the interview. But, these are the guys that he might potentially be able to get in against if any of them get injured. So let's hear some Bellator 80 highlights before we move on with the show.
Tournament semifinal round. Alexander Volkov versus Vinicius Spartan for a place in the final.
Two 6'7" heavyweights looked like more of a striking match than anything. It was Volkov finding the range from the outside, landing with his straight punches and hurting Vinicius Spartan with this right hand, and then swarming in, not on the ground like Mark Holada, but on the feet here against the fence. The waning seconds of the second round, landing right hands over and over until he gets the stoppage. 1 second left in the second round.
That second place in the final goes to Alexander Volkov. For the tournament championship here in season number 7, Volkov will face Richard Hale. And finally tonight, Owen Evinger versus the self-proclaimed baddest man on the planet, Bellator's former 145-pound world champion Joe Warren at 135 pounds.
The question is, would Joe Warren fight like the baddest man on the planet with that old intensity and aggression? The answer was a resounding yes. He was all over Owen Evinger from start to finish with his wrestling, his smothering top game. Good transitions to mount, had a couple opportunities to finish here, like with this arm triangle, but it was not to be. But he kept the pressure on. Owen Evinger really not having any answer for the ground attack of Joe Warren. No answer at all. No defense for the takedown. He was game, but never in this fight from start to finish. Joe Warren, just intensity and pressure throughout.
For the
latest Bellator news, you should check out SRMA.com. Don't listen to what that guy says. So, now that we have live guests in studio, for you guys that haven't been able to catch the whole show, we have Legion's Requiem, Sacramento metal band, Stephen Ward and Scott Moda, members of the group. How you guys doing, now that the show's been able to progress and, been able to ease into the situation?
I feel great.
That's the roofies talking. Don't drink the water when you're at the Verbal Scrap podcast. You never know what could be in it. So I wanted to ask you guys one talking point that many people are talking about, sex.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that? People talk about sex.
No, I've never.
But fighters often wonder, should they have sex before a fight? Regardless of how it feels, let's not talk about the feel standpoint. Let's talk about the physical effects. Now, for you guys that don't know Freddie Roach, do you know Freddie Roach?
Yes.
Thank God. I would hope that you know Freddie. Freddie Roach is a world-renowned trainer. Trains boxers. GSP has been known to train with
Anderson
Freddie Roach.
Silva?
That guy's not good.
Oh, he's not good.
No, he's not horrible. But Freddie Roach actually talked a little bit about sex before a fight. So let's hear what he had to say before we talk to it with our in-studio guests.
How do you deal with fighters and girls and them having sex with their girlfriends and stuff like that? What's your view on that? Do you think it takes out of a fighter?
I think mentally it might. I've had doctors give me results on tests have been done. It does lower your testosterone level for a 24 to 48 hour period, and it's been proven. And so some people say, it's not the sex, it's the chase. It's going out looking for that, unless you have a wife at home where you don't have chase. At least says he used to be relaxed and used to have sex before every fight. But I ask my guys, give me 10 days. 10 days of discipline. That's all.
That's a long time, man.
10 days. I had no. Come on. I was 6 weeks.
You 6 weeks?
Yeah, my dad.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
That's a really long time.
So it's changed a lot since then, but give me 10 days just for the discipline and your mental outlook on it.
And for the most part, do they react like okay, or they're like, I don't know, Freddie?
I asked Michael Moore for 10 days, and he says I'll give you 14. That's what he told me. And, the thing is, if you talk to him in that manner, deal's a deal, the deal's to be solid. If I told somebody don't do this, you can't tell grown men what to do. I found that out. But the thing is, it's just a mental issue, I think, and I don't think it's. But medically speaking, it can lower your testosterone level for a 24 to 48 hour period.
So Freddie Roach is basically telling you, no banging, right? Now that you've heard the man basically say your testosterone levels can be lowered for 20 to 48 hours, something like that?
All you need is TRT then.
So if you have an exemption, you're in the clear.
You're in the clear. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let me ask your honest opinion. What are your thoughts, not just for fighting or anything like that, but before a performance? You guys played sports or done something before a show or anything like that. How do you think sex might affect your performance? Is it relative to the act, or is it actually just an overall physical thing?
I've read a couple.
Read a few things. You read some things about sex before.
I read Chuck Liddell's book too. He'd say he'd bang chicks all night and stuff, and Dana White would be grossed out coming back to his hotel because he wants his signed gloves, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's women everywhere and stuff," and his toenails are pink. And Joseph Benavidez just said in an article that he's like, "Well, yeah, no, I wait till I go the night before. I don't do it that day and stuff." So for some folks, it works out fine. Others. But I could see if you're trying to build yourself up and you're focused, and I don't know, I guess if I don't have sex, I don't want to get too personal here, but
please do tell.
You can go in maybe a little bit of rage mode. Rage mode, building it up.
I'm with you on that. 2 weeks without.
Yeah, you could destroy something.
Okay, so what about his comment of 6 weeks? He said, I would get me and my pups to go 6 weeks without before a fight. 6 weeks. Could you? Okay, let's say you had a woman readily available for 6 weeks. Could you say no for 6 weeks?
I don't think she would let me for 6 weeks.
I like this answer. This is a good answer. Well, speaking of lovely ladies, Ronda Rousey is now a UFC, officially something that, many people, including UFC President Dana White, discussed probably not happening at all, a women's division of any kind in the UFC. But now she's in the UFC.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Do you think they're going to grow women's division? Do you think they're just going to have maybe one-off fights? What are your guys' thoughts on Ronda Rousey? First, let's talk what's up.
One-off fights for now, because what else are they going to do? I mean, honestly, she's been fighting in Strikeforce, and she's already beat, besides Cyborg, right? Besides Cyborg, and Gina Carano's doing movies. Who knows what she wants to do? That was her last fight anyway with Cyborg, and it was, finished with 1 second to go in the first round. They called it, but I don't. He was right before in one way. I have nothing against women's MMA. I watch it all the time. I think it's awesome. Those chicks can just go down. They would beat the hell out of anybody, you know. And Cyborg, I wanted to see her fight Jose Aldo. I mean, that's how badass she looks. But it's not a stacked. There's not enough women in the weight classes that have a name, that have a draw, or even have enough fights sometimes.
Well, Steven, let me ask you this. If he's saying they're going to have one-off fights for now, do you think that maybe the UFC would eventually want to build an entire division, or do you think that there's something that they might want to do?
Absolutely. I think that the UFC is a very fast-growing business, and I think that they're really maturing very well and getting into how they produce it and finding out where they can fill out. But I think that they could definitely grow in the women's division, definitely.
Well, for you guys listening, this is episode 29 of the Verbal Scrap Podcast. Collision Course, we still have a few things coming up. Rebel Fighter and NorCal Combat 5 preview. Our Brazilian correspondent, Ty Silva. And our live in-studio peoples. You don't know, in case you haven't been checking out SRMA.com, you wouldn't know. Scott Moda and Stephen Ward are in a band, Legion's Requiem, and they brought us a song that they're going to be playing for us tonight. You guys are the band, right? We didn't just bring in the wrong people.
I clean rooms around here.
Can I have a
I carry the gear.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be playing Death Grip tonight. Could you guys set us up for us? It's the moment of truth now. You know, now we're going to be playing some really awesome tunes for you, and I want to ask the fans who don't know, or for you guys, for the fans that don't know, what's this sound like? And what would you warn against for fans that might kind of be not sure where this music might take them?
Vocally, a lot of people have a difficult time getting into the vocals because most of the time you can't understand what they're saying.
Is it because it's metal?
It's death metal.
Yeah.
It's melodic death metal, but it's got a lot of groove
I find
in
it
it.
pretty. I find it very pretty.
Very beautiful.
It's a beautiful sound.
It's very melodic.
It's made to rip your wiener off. I mean, if you need to fight something, you need to
walkout music. I hear metal all the time.
Vigorous sex. I don't understand.
Not 6 weeks before the fight.
Not six weeks before.
Freddie Roach said so.
Listen, fighters.
Well, for you guys that don't have the opportunity to check out Legion's Requiem on an everyday basis because you're not listening to the podcast, now you have an opportunity to hear Death Grip. Let's roll it. This is Johnny Watt from SRMMA.com. You might have our old iTunes feed of the Verbal Scrap Podcast, But we've moved to a brand new channel. If you go to Spreaker.com and you just search for SRMMA, or you can go to SRMMA.com and check out the Verbal Scrap Podcast tab for information and updated podcast info. SRMMA.com for comprehensive combat coverage.
JWA from SRMMA.com. We're here at Folsom MMA talking to Aspen Ladd, who's training in preparation for a potential November fight at Ultimate Reno Combat. You know, what's training been like for you here at the gym, especially with all the guys ready for their own fights, you know, getting ready for their own particular title fights or competitions?
I love it. When there's fights coming up, the energy is fantastic. We beat the crap out of each other, and that's how it's supposed to be. It's just awesome.
Well, secondly, you know, about getting into fighting, you know, you told me you kind of got into it because you needed something to do. But when you got into it, what was your first, your pre thoughts about jiu-jitsu, maybe grappling, and kind of now that you've been in it a little while, what are your thoughts based on your first notions of what the sport might be?
I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't know it was an MMA gym. I just knew martial arts of some kind. I went in, and they were doing jiu-jitsu, and the close contact when you're not used to it is kind of freaky, but then you stop thinking about it, and it gets easier. Now I can't go without it. It's what I love to do. A couple days without, and I get jittery, so it's
kind of like you're fixed now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're jonesing for mat work.
That's exactly it.
Well, last thing I wanted to ask you, if you were able to get this November fight, if they were able to put something together for you, what would you most want as far as satisfaction? What would be the most satisfying way for you to finish the fight if you were able to get that to happen?
Just winning for the most part.
Yeah.
Winning in a technical manner would be better. I mean, it's going to be pancreation if I can get it. I still got 6 months till I can go into the cage. Less now, but I don't know. I just want to do it and see.
Win, right?
Basically, I prefer to get the submission. I don't want to win. Yeah. I don't want it to go to the referees ever, but we'll see how things go.
That was Aspen Ladd, who's taking on killer Kelly McGill on November 16th at the Rebel Fighter event happening in Sacramento, California. You can check out Rebel Fighter on Facebook.com for more ticket information. NorCal Combat is the day after that on November 17th, happening in Gridley, California, NorCal Combat 5. We were able to talk to Ben Kramer, who's going to be fighting Idris Wassi in the card. And let's hear what Mr. Kramer had to say about his upcoming fight. This is Jay Watt on the Verbal Scrap Podcast. We're talking to Benjamin Kramer, who's going to be fighting at the NorCal Combat event happening November 17th. How you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Feeling really healthy and high spirits, so feeling pretty good today.
Well, I noticed you're going to be fighting Idris Wassi, and if you've ever been able to see the amateur circuit in the area, Idris is a pretty powerful guy. He's definitely a stand-up game striker, and he's been working on his jits and ground game. What are your thoughts going against this opponent?
Idris and I trained together at Ultimate Fitness for a while. I've seen him fight for Batch versus Batch. I think it was Eric Smith he fought. And then he also recently, for Rebel Fighter, fought teammate Kevin DeLong. So I've seen him fight. I'm familiar with him. So, I mean, I know what I'm getting myself into as far as the striking and everything goes, but I feel confident and feel confident that I can come out and perform a little better than my last performance. So,
have you fought since Rebel Fighter?
I have not. I've actually just been training a lot. I have been working a lot in San Jose, so for this training camp, I kind of have been training at AKA, but I've also been doing a lot of boxing here at Carnage MMA with Troy, trying to improve my stand-up defense as well as my boxing. So.
Well, I mean, in your last fight, you fought a guy that was like a physically bigger guy. What are your thoughts coming into this guy? You're definitely going to be the taller of the two fighters. But like I said, Idris he's a much more thicker, stockier kind of opponent. Are you looking to maybe showcase some striking you've been training recently, or do you think that jiu-jitsu is going to be the way?
For sure. I mean, in my last performance, I don't know that I threw a punch standing, so I like to definitely improve on that. Idris knows, and pretty much everybody who knows me knows I'm a ground fighter. I like being on the ground, but I started off in kickboxing, so I definitely feel that my height and range advantage, it could come into play, it could not, I mean, in a fight, you don't know what's going to happen in the fight until the fight happens. So, we'll just see how it goes in there and, try to pick and choose what I'm given, and hopefully I come out with the W.
Well, I mean, you're going to be fighting on the 17th at the Butte County Fairgrounds, and that's kind of a ways out, for people that live in other places or like city environments. You have a lot of fan base or anybody like that coming to the fight with you?
I do. Actually, I have quite a bit of friends out there in the Chico area.
Nice.
As well, I've actually made some pretty good friends in the MMA community, Josh Hinkle, Benito Lopez being
those are good guys. Those are good guys.
Off the top of my head, they're both really cool guys. I mean, they're probably more acquaintances than really friends, but they're cool dudes. And I think one or both of them might be coming out to the fights, as well as the promoter John Ursua, really cool dude. So I look forward to going out there and putting on a really good performance for all of them.
Well, I mean, being an amateur fighter, what motivates you? I noticed you have a lot of pictures with kids, and it kind of seems like like you might not have the vengeance or the crazy rage that maybe other fighters might have. So, kind of, what's your motivation to get in the cage and exhibit your skills?
I'm originally from the San Jose, Santa Cruz area. I'm originally a surfer boy, so I don't really get mad. I don't really get. I'm not in MMA because I have anger issues and I need an outlet for them. I'm in it for the competition. I played football for a long time, and that had always been, my competition had always come out in that. So, it's just kind of the way it is. I enjoy the competition of it all. I enjoy being, a gladiator and, me versus you.
Spartan mentality.
Let's see who wins,
I like it. No, I can dig that mentality. That's kind of why the mano y mano mindset. No, I'm with you on that. So last thing I have for Ben Kramer, who's going to be fighting November 17th at NorCal Combat 5. What would be the ideal way you'd want to finish that? I mean, I know you said you want to go on the ground and that's where you're most comfortable, but is there maybe a part of you that might want to pull something out of your hat come November 17th?
I mean, I think that if you watch my last fight, you would think that I have no striking background, but it's actually where I started. I just had a hard time pulling the trigger in my last fight, and you can count on me pulling the trigger a lot more in this fight. And if Patrice gets knocked out, he gets knocked out. If he gets submitted, he gets submitted. If he gets decisions, he gets decision. But I will definitely say that I've done all that I can do to try to get my hand raised in this fight. And there's no ill will towards the guy, but when the door closes, it's just going to be me and him, and let the better man win.
NCC 5 is going to be taking place November 17th, Butte County Fairgrounds. You can go to facebook.com/NorCal Combat. Check out ticket information. Ben, I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you come fight night.
Oh, definitely, buddy. Y'all have a good night, and hope to see you all on the 17th.
Well, you're listening to the 29th episode of the Verbal Scrap Podcast, Collision Course. We are here with a live studio guest from Legion's Requiem. You heard their song Death Grip, which was pretty rippin' peens. I might have to say Scott Moda, bassist here, was pretty correct. If you guys now, if you had the opportunity, if you don't know about our show sponsor, MMA Gold, they're a fight management team. If you check out MMAGold.com and their store, you can win some merchandise now on our show. All you have to do to simply win and be entered to win is tweet us at SRMMA Tweets with the hashtag MMA Gold. And you're automatically entered to win a free black or white t-shirt from MMA Gold. If you want to check out their merchandise, you go to their store at MMAGold.com. Simply tweet at SRMMA Tweets anything you like with the hashtag MMA Gold, and you're automatically entered to win. So there you go. That's MMA Gold, and they're our sponsor for this show of Collision Course. I want to get some national news about you guys. Vitor Belfort, Michael Bisping, we talked a little bit before the show about it. we kind of got to quickly gloss over it, but you kind of got to give me a pick. Belfort Bisping. The matchup is now official. It's not going to be happening until 2013. But Bisping Belfort, if you got to give me a preemptive pick, you can change it fight night. I'm not going to make you live by it. But right now, initial thoughts. Steven.
Belfort.
I like it. That was confidence. Any particular reason? Just knockout power, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Yeah, pure knockout power. And you've seen Bisping get knocked out before.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Same for you, Moto? What's the thought process with Bellator?
Dan Henderson.
I will take him every time.
Vitor. Yeah.
Dropping the H-bomb.
Vitor Belfort is the initial get up all the way
How
around here?
injured is he before and how
that.
injured is he going to say he was during, the interview afterwards? I don't know.
Well, also happening in 2013, West Coast Fighting Championships just signed their main event in the evening. Dave Badman Huckabee has won 8 of his last 9 fights, taking on Carter Williams, a kickboxing champion. It's going to be an MMA affair, so you can check out westcoastfighting.com for more of that information. Junior Dos Santos set to fight Cain Velasquez and defend his title. I saw the first fight live. Wasn't too long.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are still talking about Alistair Overeem JDS, which I was robbed of seeing live in Vegas. You were as well. So now let's talk about, without skipping over Velasquez, which is a whole other thing, and you probably shouldn't do it. But Overeem JDS, would you still be excited to see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes and no. I mean, there's like this honor thing in sports, and I don't think you should be able to get away with, like, I know it's his first time pissing hot or whatever, but I just still...
his excuse just sounds too good to be true too. It's like, it's just you're just perfectly perfect.
Oh, I didn't know there was testosterone in there. That
was
doctor
all the
screwed me.
doctor.
Yeah, and I went all the way to Texas to see this doctor. So, if you Google his name, you can find that he's, quite in the news quite a bit for helping people cheat. So,
JDS Overeem, you interested, Steven?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I
Still?
think it'd be a fun fight to watch. Yeah.
Just because they're two huge, colossal beasts?
Yes.
So, I mean, considering this, it's going to take a while for this fight to happen. I mean, do you think that Overeem without the hot piss is still the same kind of Overeem that he is and could still pose the same threat?
He's a big dude. I mean, he's mean. He can throw mean power. Gosh, he's got a lot of power. But I don't know, man. I've seen that chin tested more than once. I mean, people now, if they just see Overeem now and they're like seeing him like maybe Strikeforce on, they'd be like, "Oh man, no way, he's gonna destroy everybody." You go back to Pride, you're like, "I don't know. I've seen him get knocked out cold."
I'm not so sure about all of that.
Yeah, dead in the ring. It looked like a couple times. I know he's emaciated because he was cutting so much weight or whatever. But like JDS took a power shot from Shane Carwin and kept coming forward. I mean...
Straightforward.
Yeah, straightforward. He's got a chin, and he knows how to tuck it, and he doesn't have to fight with his hands completely covering the sides of his head the whole time, and hopefully landing a kick. JDS has combos. He's got combos, and he's fast. Really, I saw it in person.
Fast.
He's got some boxing skills.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We saw that. Frank Mir didn't know what the hell happened to him. I mean, anybody can argue and say what they want about Mir. Mir's been there. He's had the belt. He's a badass fighter, But God, he didn't look like a badass fighter that night.
He didn't look ready for JDS. And hey, who knows? Maybe Overeem won't be ready for JDS. And if you're liking what you're hearing on the 29th episode of the Verbal Scrap Podcast, you can check out our iTunes feed. You can check out all this information on our right sidebar. Find us on iTunes, our RSS feed, and hit us up on Twitter, like I said, to win some MMA Gold merch. We still have the Ty Silva interview that's going to be brought to you by One Body Integrated Training and Therapy. That's going to be a little bit later, but we have one more question for the live studio guest, and it involves Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar. Let's hear a highlight really quickly.
Jose Aldo is one of the top 3 pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. He is just really without flaw. He has no holes in his game whatsoever. He has no weakness. He really may go down as one of the greatest fighters in the history of the game.
I'm eager to get back in there and get the strap back around my waist. I want this sport to be the best.
You can never count this kid out. He is set to face one bad Brazilian. Don't look at your popcorn. Don't talk to your dog. It's going down, baby.
It is going down on February 2nd, 2013. UFC 156, Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar dropping down from lightweight, making his move at the featherweight title. I want to ask you, Steven, I know you've seen Jose Aldo. You've spoke of his amazing legs and knees and all his devastating limbs. Tell me your thoughts about Edgar's chances dropping down in weight.
I think Jose Aldo's too good a fighter. I think that Frankie Edgar's not. I think Jose Aldo's gonna win.
To put this in perspective, what are your thoughts on Edgar outside of an Aldo fight?
Outside of an Aldo fight? Oh, he's a good fighter. I don't know how he's gonna fare in the lighter division, just because he might not be comfortable in that weight. But I think Jose Aldo's gonna pick him apart.
Just like he picks apart pretty much everyone.
Buddy that he fights.
Even any second. Maybe a second before the end of the round, he can still finish.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Moda of Legion's Requiem, Mr. Edgar dropping down in weight.
Yeah.
You know, he initially said he didn't want to do it, but now he's doing it because he's, not able to maintain that lightweight title with Benson Henderson in the division. Do you think that maybe staying in lightweight would have been a good thing for him, or do you think this was pretty much his only option?
No, I don't think it was his only option. I actually had him winning the last Ben Henderson fight. I thought Ben Henderson won the first time, but anyway, besides that, because that's all a matter of opinion, this fight excites me more than anything because, honestly, Frankie's only going to be cutting like 12 pounds. That's it, to get to where he's got to go. Whereas Jose Aldo's cutting like upwards to maybe people have guessed 30 pounds to get to where he's getting to. And he's looked emaciated. In some fights, he's looked like, he looks like crap sometimes, when he's into weigh-ins.
Yeah.
I feel like they have to hold him up, on the thing over there. But he's one of the best fighters, one of my favorite fighters, Jose Aldo. But this is the first time, I hate to say it that way, I'm really feeling like he's getting challenged. Mendez is an amazing fighter, Faber. You can name all these people. But this is a real fighter. Frankie Edgar came in.
That might be at his right size.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He beat BJ Penn twice. He's gone
Called
off.
that.
You did call that. I was wrong on that.
Called
one.
it.
Yeah. He's just won fights where he didn't think it was possible.
Yeah.
Like this kid should not win this, and he did it. And he never quits. He's amazing. He's fast. He's got takedowns. So Jose Aldo, please. I saw you in the 5th round against Homnick. I think this is a real fight, and this will show us really where Jose Aldo is. If he destroys Frankie Edgar, which Frankie in the first round, Jesus, this
he's
poor
used
guy.
to getting destroyed in the first round. Let's be real.
Really
He's really good at the last four. Not so much the first one.
He wakes up in the 5th round. You know what I mean? He's ready to stop bleeding everywhere.
Well, at UFC 156, maybe there's an opportunity for him to pull out the featherweight title and maybe be a champion in 2 different weight classes at separate times. And that's a big step for Frankie Edgar. And the best thing I ever heard about Frankie Edgar, I heard someone interview his dad. And they said, Frankie Edgar's going to be getting into some deep water here. What do you think? And Dad said, well, Frankie can swim.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I think of every time someone's like, dang, Edgar might be in trouble. Well, he can swim.
Yeah, watch out for the flying knees. Flying knees are deadly.
They come right out of the water.
They do. I've seen
knocking
that.
you out like nothing. Well, we saved my favorite interview of the show for last. I got to interview Ty Silva, our Brazilian correspondent who lives in Brazil some of the time. Was able to get some awesome photos for us when Jose Aldo was fighting down at, I believe it was UFC 142. But he was on the show talking a lot of Brazilian stuff, and he definitely talked about Jose Aldo. So let's hear what he had to say to finish out the show.
Nice.
It's JWA from SRMMA.com on the episode 29 Collision Course podcast with Ty Silva, SR writer and Brazilian correspondent. First and foremost, how you doing today, Ty?
Doing great, brother. Thanks for having me again.
Hey, it's always good. Now that you had an opportunity to settle down, could you give the fans a little bit more about what you do and tell us more about One Body, your business that you've finally been able to put together and kind of tell maybe the fans that are listening or maybe fighters, whoever, how they could benefit from taking part in what you were able to do with your strength training and stuff like that.
Right on, bro. So I started a new business. I've been here in Folsom running a personal training for the past almost 5 years, and then for the past almost 2 years, I started a massage business as well. And what I did is I combined both business, took it to Eldorado Hills, got a real nice facility there, built a world-class gym. So now I'm doing my strength and conditioning training there as well as the therapy as well. I integrate both of them, doing my practice as a healthcare practitioner of my clients. So clients coming in for all kinds of reasons, some young athletes coming in for sports performance, or for injury, treatment, or a lot of older clients as well coming in for aches and pains and developing better posture, better structure, and things like that. So I do it all. I work with people for sports performance enhancement, or for people to just want to be fit all around, or people who want to get out of pain because they're suffering from shoulder pain or low back pain or whatever it is. So I do my work as a trainer and as a therapist together now in this beautiful facility that we got up there. So.
Well, I know when you were in Brazil, some of your free time, you were able to take some shots for us of a UFC 142, I believe, or something like that. So, you spent some time there, and I wanted to ask you about Brazilian news. First and foremost, Vitor Belfort coming off the John Jones loss, which, by the way, was a really good fight. He looked like in the first round he was going to get him, but now he's set to fight Michael Bisping. What are your thoughts on Belfort versus Bisping?
I love the matchup, man. I want to send Joe Silva a postcard or something for putting a nice fight together, because I'm not always happy with the matchups that they have. And I think Vitor and right now Bisping as well were two fighters that really needed a good matchup and to fight each other. I think it's a great fight for both guys. It's a dangerous fight for both guys because to me it's kind of a toss-up. I favor Vitor a little because I'm biased. I like Vitor and Brazil. Of course, I've trained the guy's gym for a couple of years. So, so I'm favoring Vitor a little, but I've already in the past, I thought about this matchup and what it would look like. And Bisping is a very, very crafty guy, and he's a tough guy as well, and he could definitely win a decision over Vitor.
Yeah, I think that Bisping has continuously throughout his career been highly underrated. No matter how much credibility he gets, he always seems to be just, the low guy on the totem pole. So this Belfort matchup could be really, really big.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree 100% that Bisping, is always being underrated, and he's only getting better and better. His last couple fights against Brian Stann and Chael Sonnen really showed how well-rounded this guy is and how tough he is. He took a huge shot from Brian Stann and kept fighting. And he's kind of a bad matchup of some sorts to Vitor, just like Vitor is also a bad matchup for him. So it's going to be really interesting to see which guys are going to be able to go out there and implement their game plan. Is Vitor going to explode out on because Bisping has this kind of more technical striking of just kind of countering and playing that boxing game of his and carrying out and then being a little bit more or less committing to his strikes, whereas Vitor really commits to what he throws. So is Vitor going to catch Bisping in an exchange in the first round, or is Bisping going to outlast Vitor for 3 rounds and take a decision? I think that's what it's going to come down to,
Well, early next year, there's another huge Brazilian matchup that I'm looking forward to in February. February 2nd, Jose Aldo is going to be taking on Frankie Edgar. Edgar's going to be dropping down from lightweight to former lightweight champion of many epic fights at that weight class, and a lot of people thought he should be fighting down on the lower weight. And now he's going to step right in and fight Aldo. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I also like that matchup. I don't think he's nearly as close. I love Frankie. He's one of my favorite fighters. The guy's a cool guy,
Agreed.
Committed to the sport. Very talented, very, very disciplined in his training, always looking good. Very tough guy, can also survive from some crazy fights and deliver the goods. Was sort of a luck in his last 2 fights, I'm sure in his eyes, I did think that Benson, got the best of him in both fights, but the second one was really close though. So I'm sure he's coming in very hungry for this fight, and a really huge opportunity for him to come to Rio to fight the champion Jose Aldo, who's considered one of the best in the sport. I don't think he has much of a chance, though. I think actually that he's in for a night of hurt. I think that
it is possible with Aldo.
Jose Aldo right now, and so he's going to come in. And the main advantage, one of the main advantages that Frankie has is his speed. He's not going to have that anymore. That's gone out of the window. Aldo's going to be faster than him, and he hits a lot harder. It's a lot more explosive, a lot more technical. There's no way that Frankie's going to touch Aldo in my eyes. I mean, he's just going to stand on the outside. He's definitely not going to be able to take. I don't see it. He could take perhaps Aldo down. I don't see it happening. Aldo's such a beast when he's taking down defense, and it's not even just the defense itself. It's the way he strikes. It doesn't lend itself to get taken down really much. So I think that it's going to be a long night for Frankie, man. Unfortunately for him.
Well, we're talking to SR writer Ty Silva, who's also our Brazilian correspondent with some Brazilian news, and talking all Brazil fights. The last big thing I wanted to talk to you about. I wanted to talk to you more of your opinion, not just of how it goes down, but your actual maybe physical opinion or maybe your knowledge of the body, how you might take this. when you see Anderson Silva and Nogueira on a card, and Nogueira was able to beat Herman, and Silva was able to beat Bonner, but then after the fight, you see that Bonner tests positive for steroids and Herman tests positive for marijuana. What are your thoughts of A, Bonner testing positive for steroids in the Silva fight? What do you think that whole process behind that is? And B, do you maybe think less of the marijuana with Herman, or what do you find that it's performance enhancing for him? Like, what are your thoughts on how it might affect the body and especially in a fight?
Bonner, I don't know, it doesn't surprise me much just because it's so common in the sport. It's just something that is present in the sport. Athletes do it. They have a whole lot of pressure on them to perform, to put bread on the table of their families, to pay their trainers. So these guys are doing what they have to do in their eyes. So I'm not ever want to judge their decisions as far as how it affects their bodies. I think Bonner may have opted to do that because he was going on a short notice against the best in the sport. So he felt like, he needed a little edge or something. Perhaps it's just my interpretation of the whole thing is that he had a short notice coming into fights. A guy like Anderson Silva, he probably took him, with the objective of enhancing his performance, his recovery, so that he could train harder, and then his performance that day as well. And then I don't know what really going on with these guys' heads because, you're going to get caught if you do something like that. Some of these guys are smart about the way they cycle on and off, and they don't get caught. But Bonner, the way he did it, apparently, I don't know the details, but it seems like, it was a given that if he did that like that, he was going to get caught. So I don't know if he really didn't care for it. He was already thinking, if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to make history, and I've got nothing to lose. I don't know his mentality before that. And with Herman, I don't know, I don't think, I really don't see how anybody would possibly smoke pot to enhance their performance. Maybe a guy like Nick Diaz with his personality, maybe really enhancing his training as far as, his technical training when he's doing just techniques on the ground, maybe makes him really crafty, he enhances his creativity and his flow and relaxes him, and he's able to, kind of go through the grind of training a little bit easier in his mind. That's it. But as far as enhancing performance and, just making you, a stronger machine as far as fighting goes, doing training and doing practice, that's definitely not the case. So I don't know what Herman did because he's just a pothead. It sure seems like he was high on pot on that fight because he was kind of taking Nogueira lightly. And you don't go down to Rio and take Nogueira lightly. I mean, you should have watched the fights against that kid. What was his name? That kid that came to Rio and said that he was going to knock Nogueira out.
Brendan Schaub?
Instead. Brendan Schwab?
Yeah, the hybrid, and then he got knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, he got knocked out viciously, so, and then, Herman comes out there with his phone pose for arms that he has, and he's trying to put that in front of Nogueira, and keeps getting clipped and gets, knocked down, and he's still not taking Nogueira serious, and then said the things that he said about Nogueira's jiu-jitsu, and then to guess maybe the way he did it, yeah, he sure was right to me. It seemed like it.
You didn't even have to test him. You could tell by his fighting style.
Exactly, yeah. This guy must be high out of his mind right now.
Well, Ty, I appreciate all the Brazilian information and perspective, and tell the fans where's a good place to contact you for One Body information in general.
Oh, right on, man. My new website is onefitbody.net. My business number is 906-365-5345. If you visit the website, my email address is in there as well. It's just ITT because of integrated training and therapy. It's my unique brand of fitness and conditioning that I developed, integrated fitness and training. So it's ITT at onefitbody.net. So if anybody out there is looking for a trainer or somebody to help them either get out of pain or enhance their performance, or just help them with the training overall, whether it be an MMA fighter, sparring fighter, or soccer mom or anybody. I've worked with everybody right now. I'm currently had people of every walk of life on my roster of clients. So, I enjoy any challenge. Anybody comes up to me to help them feel better and perform better, I'm up for it.
Awesome, Ty. I appreciate your time. You have a good night, my friend.
Thanks, Don. You do the same. Thank you.
And there you go. That was Ty Silva, always with awesome input, always on the Brazilian side of every single argument. You can always count on that, and if anything, he's dependable. And if you haven't checked out his work, you can check out his work on our right sidebar. Just click the Ty Silva link. Our live in-studio guests. It was a pleasure to hear Death Grip on air, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
It is ripping peens left and right. That should be the title of your next album, by the way.
So.
But I wanted to give you guys the opportunity, Steven and Scott of Legion's Requiem, to give the fans an opportunity that people want to get involved with you, people want to check you out, download some music, check out a show, whatever you guys got going on. Let's let the fans know what you got.
Yeah, check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/Legion's Requiem Band. We also have Reverb Nation website, reverbnation.com/Legion's Requiem. You can actually download all of our songs. We have 5 songs up on our Reverb Nation site. You can download them for free. Contact us because we have shirts for sale as well. We're selling them for $10. You can check us out on Twitter as well. And that's about it.
Scott Moda, bassist, any last words on the episode 29 Collision Course?
Thanks for having us, man. I appreciate that.
Thank you guys for all your input and especially UFC 154 talk. I enjoy the GSP kind of talk the most. For all you fans out there, I want to thank the fans that are listening, that share it, that like our content, that actually say we do a good job. I appreciate that. That makes me feel good. I appreciate the fighters and all of our guests very much. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to put on a really good show and give the fans that content. So thanks to all the guests. Our sponsor, MMA Gold. You can check out MMAGold.com. If you're interested in getting involved with SRMMA for any reasons, whether SR exclusive program, advertising, or you just want to write for us, maybe get involved as an editor in some way, you can email me, jw@srmma.com, and check out all of our coverage this weekend. Tachi Palace on the 15th, Rebel Fighter on the 16th, and NorCal Combat on the 17th. This is episode 29 Collision Course. Thank you so much for having us.